Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and you are too. Of course, you're watching content like this. The name of this channel is Manifesting Magic with Dr. J, and I am that, Dr. J. I have a list. I have my handy dandy notebook, right? Right? That's you. When you say handy dandy notebook, that means you've raised children. Everybody knows what a handy dandy notebook is. Okay. So today, what I'm talking about is 5 signs you've had a breakthrough. So you ever wonder, like you went through something, or either you dealt with a certain feeling or an idea or a concept that wasn't positive about yourself that you were trying to get to the other side of, and you may have had a series of events to where you were very conscious, you understood what you were doing wrong, and all those sort of things, but then you still question, like, did I really have the breakthrough? Did I really have that breakthrough I was looking for to get on the other side of this thing, right? Did I have it? And so I got 5 signs to let you know that I know, because I've been through breakthroughs several times in my life at many different times for all kinds of things. I mean, some of the most basic things I've had breakthroughs over was, I guess, financial stability, feeling beautiful, all those sort of things. I used to question it all the time. Then I told myself, you know what, it's a done deal. You're beautiful, move on. And what else? All kinds of breakthroughs. Being a mother and kind of like getting over some of that, putting yourself on the back burner sort of thing. I've had breakthroughs there. So I've had breakthroughs with several things in my life, and a lot of things related to stuff I thought I couldn't do, and then I was able to do it. I know I talked about swimming before, and just conquering the fear of just going underneath water was like amazing to me. So just like those things, like, you get to the other side of it, just like, wait, was that the breakthrough, or am I going to be wrestling with this just as hard again? Probably not. And let me tell you why. 5 ways, right? The first thing I know, the first indicator that I have in this, I give myself a few days, I give myself a week or so. Then I think about whatever that thing was that was bothering me, and I can't find the place of aggravation and anger like I did when it was still a thing for me, right? Like I can't find a place for it. And that's one of the biggest signs to me, is like when you think about it, it just doesn't bother you. You want it to bother you almost, and you even may run through the same scenarios and talk about the person or whoever it was, or the situation or the job or the finances or whatever it is. You may go through the motions, but you're trying to be bothered by it in the same way, and it just doesn't happen. Your mind's like, nah, we done with that. We done with that, sis. And you're just like, oh my goodness, I don't care, right? That's my number 1 sign. Number 2 is you feel a lot better, but it's not over the top, right? Because you know how sometimes you can feel like, okay, you've gotten over something, and you had a real hard fall, and you had a real low swoop, right? And then like the pendulum swings in the other direction too far, right? And then so you're just like, oh, now I am 100% better and I'm on top of the world, but you're too high. So it's like when you have these issues and you're all the way over here, and then the pendulum swings, it may cock over here for a second, but then it comes back and you're like in the middle. You're like right moderately where you belong, right? So you feel better, but it's not over the top, because when you feel over the top and you stay over the top, it's most likely gonna swing all the way back in that other direction, because it's not balanced. At some point, you have to balance out your energies when it comes to how you feel about anything you're going through, right? Number 3, you begin to see everything for what it is. Clarity abounds, right? So if you were lying to yourself about something, say you were interacting with people or places or things, or you were on a job or something, say that happened, and you were on this job and the people were telling you that somehow you got into the notion of that they were smarter than you and they had more to offer and you didn't have a lot to offer, and you were always feeling inadequate at the end of each one of your days, right? But then you really look back and you're just like, okay, let me take inventory of what's really happening. What's really happening? Clarity abounds. Because when you're super emotional and you're caught up on some mind attacks or some nonsense that you can't seem to dump out of your brain, you get you don't have any clarity as it relates to what the real deal is. Like, what are the facts of this situation, right? So it's like you work at the job. It's like, what are the facts of this situation? Who are these people that are telling me that I'm not good enough or something like that, right? What is their mindset? Do they even have the level of, gratitude and appreciation for people or places or things that you are aspiring to? Because sometimes we're worried about what other people are saying and thinking, and they don't even have nothing that you should even be worried about having. You don't even want the stuff they have, but you get so caught up in the emotion that you forget that that's not even your path. It's just clarity, right? Clarity. I had to have a conversation yesterday to get some clarity. It's just like, you don't even want that. Why do you care? My brother had to tell me something about something I've been obsessing over. He was like, I've known you your whole life. You've never wanted you. I literally know that you never really. I'm like, you're telling the truth. So it's like you have to get this clarity. And when you start to see that clarity, like things for what it is, and the clarity doesn't like make you angry, it doesn't bother you, it doesn't make you sad. You just like, oh, okay, right? Number 4. You recovered from a breakdown without shifting the blame on someone else or trying to make someone else feel as crummy as you do, right? So that's just what it is. Like you had that crazy breakdown. You had that moment to where you're just like, this is just not working. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on, but I am not happy in this particular environment. This thing is, whatever it is, it's not working for me, right? The last contract I had, I got to that point. I was like, you know what? I'm over calling myself a quitter. This environment is just not working for me. I don't know how I attracted it, but it's telling me a lot about myself right now. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut this off, right? Just cut it off. And so you recover from the breakdown, and I came out of it. I was never thinking like, oh, these people were so awful. What they were mean. It was none of that. The environment was just chaos. And they were all playing their chaotic roles in that environment. But I just didn't want to participate. And when I made myself participate, I made myself angry for being a part of it, right? So when you really get to that breakdown point and that like I've had enough disgust and like, ugh, no more. This is done, right? I'm done with this. I'm done with this. When you get to that point, then you really just don't have like a need to shift blame at anybody. That's not even necessary because it's just other people. They're just other flawed human beings. And so shifting the blame, it doesn't mean anything. You still got to deal with your own stuff. You can say, oh, you did it, they did it. It really doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, they're flawed, you're flawed, they're broken, you're broken. I mean, not to the negative, to the horrible degree, but we all got these little things that needs to be worked on. And then you find yourself caught up on the words of somebody else who's on the exact same level and mindset as you. Because if people aren't, they won't be in your space, right? So it's like you really it's really a game you have to play with being accountable and being responsible for the way you let things make you feel. Because things can happen. They happen to everybody. They happen all the time. They happen nonstop. They happen when you leave out your house in the morning. They happen when you're happy-go-lucky talking to your daughters and then they just like slam you in the morning. You're like, dang, I didn't even do anything. And then I was like, I choose not to be offended. I said that today. But I mean, I'm not even bothered. So it's like, you have to get to the point where blaming somebody else for sinking deeply or getting into your feelings or being too emotional or having issues with something, you don't have time to blame them. They're not even worth blame. That's a waste of time. Be accountable, be responsible, take it into your own hands. If the environment is toxic, you can remove yourself, but sitting around blaming somebody, blaming your parents, your siblings and all that, it's really just a waste of time. Because guess what? Everybody started off in childhood and just everybody was traumatized in some kind of way in childhood. Nobody escapes. That's where you begin to learn the world, and you don't come from perfect people. It's just not even possible. So there's always going to be something in there. And then to sit around and blame somebody else who you know is clearly got issues too, you're just like, that's just not even worth my time, right? So when you're not willing to shift the blame, that means also your esteem is rising. Because when you are shifting blame at people, you're giving other people a lot of power, which lowers your self-esteem and your self-confidence. But if you take that energy and pull it back to yourself and be like, oh gosh, these people aren't good enough to make me feel less than. They're not even good enough to make me feel like I need to blame them for anything. They got their own stuff to deal with. Let them, it's fine. It's fine. That's when you know That's when you know, when you have no desire to shift the blame, when you just like, I just want to clean up my energy. Whatever's happening over there, there, and there, it's not my business. I just got to make sure this person is the aspirational version, the best version of me, the version that's going to take me to the next level. Because if you don't shake off some of the nonsense, it's going to hold you back from going to the next levels, right? That's your business. Everything else, that's other people's business, right? You can only be an example. And number 5, you start rewriting and reevaluating your beliefs and values in life, right? So when you start reevaluating, like, okay, now how do I really see this? What are my expectations and what do I want and what do I want to create and what's important to me? When you start really doing that again, you're past all the depressed part, the anger part, the aggravation part of whatever you were going through. You're on the other side already. You're already on the other side. You've already moved on. You don't feel like you have anything else to prove in that area. You feel like you wore yourself out. You wore out the topic. You've moved on. There's certain beliefs and values that you're going to hold that's always going to stand still. People are going to meet them sometime and sometimes they won't meet them. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for you at any given time. And what's best for you at any given time is to move on, right? So when you get to the place where you're like rewriting your script, where you're just like values, number 1, because you thought you knew. Because let me tell you, when you sit around, like I've been making vision boards and I've been making like gratitude journals. I've always shared my gratitude journal. It's I use it all the time. I have one in my room. I don't have my book up here anyway. I thought I have a bunch of them here. These are all filled out. They're full. Nonetheless, gratitude journals, right? And you pull out like a little journal and you start writing. And you start writing and you say, what is it that's important to me now, right? So if I go dig in these books, this is how many gratitude journals I have filled up. Now I stopped using these on a regular basis, but when I was working on them, I would nonstop. They're 90 days each. So I mean, I have a couple of years worth of gratitude journals and I write all kinds of stuff in these. And so when I go back and look at those things and I look at what was important, those were the things that was important to Jameelah at the level she was at when those things were occurring. And then you go and add new ingredients to your life, right? You add new ingredients to your life. You add people. Your children gets older. You move cities or something. You change jobs. And you add all these new ingredients to your life. And then you have to figure out again, wait, what do I really want? What is important to me? When you get to that place where you are rewriting and reevaluating, this may take a day for some people because some people get that clarity like boom. Maybe a day for you, right? And some of us, it takes like 6 months sometimes, and we're still like figuring out like we're rewriting, right? But feeling lost in that area can be very unnerving sometimes. But when you get a handle on, right, I'm about to reevaluate and reanalyze like what's important to me, what's important in a mate, what's important in a job, what's important in a career, what's important to teach my children, because I don't need to teach them how to brush their teeth anymore, right? So I can't I'm still teaching you how to brush your teeth and you're 15 years old. So it's the same thing for yourself, right? When you outgrow something, you hit a precipice, you hit a breakthrough and you move on from something that was holding you hostage, things like maybe narcissistic personality traits or maybe some childhood trauma or something like that. Ooh, somebody trying to call me. I'm talking. Childhood trauma. Wow. Weird. Who was calling when I said childhood trauma? Anyway, some childhood trauma, something like that. You're trying to understand. When it comes to those things, when you get past them, they made up a huge chunk of who you were. So like if you were codependent, you needed people to tell you how great you were all the time. It was a large part of who you were. Even if you weren't looking for it and asking for it at some particular given time, it doesn't mean that aspect wasn't sitting inside of you waiting to be unleashed as soon as the environment was vulnerable enough to unleash it. So when these things that you have that are a part of you, you begin to outgrow them, you can't help but to shift your environment. You have to shift your teachings. You have to shift what you care about, right? You have to shift what's important to you. And I think that continues over and over again. So like I said, 5 signs that you have had a breakthrough, right? Not that you're going to have one, not that one is coming, that you've had a real life breakthrough. is that you think about it and it doesn't bother you. Number two, you feel better and you feel content. You're not over the top. Over the top is always trouble. It's like that pendulum going to swing the other way if you don't even it out. Number three, you see everything for what it is. You get real clear on who is who, what is what, what's up, what's down. You're no longer confused. You're no longer in a maze, right? And number four, you've recovered from a breakdown without having to blame someone. The need to blame someone or to make someone else responsible for our feelings means that you are going to be right back in the space again where you're giving somebody too much power. While you can know that someone is responsible for something, responsible for creating something negative in your space, while they can be responsible for it, and some people are responsible for things and unconscious of it, while they can be responsible for it, they are not responsible for making you feel better. So like apologies and all that kind of stuff people do, it's cool and fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, you have to learn how to feel better about your feelings and get yourself up off the floor and make yourself feel better about who you are, because that is what's best for you. And everybody, no matter what they tell you, is doing what's best for them. Even if it's in dysfunction, people are doing what makes them happy first. So if you run around here thinking that your job is to clean up everybody else and to make everybody else feel good and happy and whole, you're going to find yourself at the short end of a lot of sticks. Number five is you start rewriting and evaluating your life. You start to think about again, okay, these things were important to me and in 2020 and before that, but since 2020's come and life has shifted, that's the kind of stuff is just not that important to me anymore. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for these people. I don't have time for these places. I don't have time for these games. I don't have time for these ideas that are not growing me in some kind of way. I don't have time for interactions that are not based on support. And I don't have time. So you start rewriting and reevaluating, because as you move through these breakthroughs, you get stronger and stronger and stronger. And one of the biggest indicators is, to me, the lack of wanting to blame it on someone else. And then you know you're getting stronger. You know you're getting stronger. Anyway, I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful day. And like, subscribe, share if you're into that. That's not a mess behind me. It's just a shoe rack, but it's all good. I was like, I don't want to move the shoe rack. It's got to be okay. Ooh, and this is a little plant that I propagated from another beautiful tree that I have in my house. So this was the first propagation. They're sitting on a table today because this one wasn't looking too happy. So I put her outside for a second. I propagated from like these two little leaves right here, the first two, right? And I put it in my little jar. And this is the most recent one that I propagated in a little jar. Once it got strong, I put it in dirt. And I just love to grow things like this. Look how healthy and pretty it is. Beautiful. Anyway, yeah, that's what I got going on today. And every day, I'm always growing something. Growing myself and growing these plants, growing these children. Growing this YouTube channel, growing my career, growing in life. That's the point of it. That's the goal. Anyway, hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And until next time.